Vorsprung durch Technik, progress through technology. It's been Audi's mantra since, well, goodness knows when, and what a back catalogue they have. They gave us the rally giant that was the killer Quattro, a car that showed that four-wheel drive wasn't just the preserve of off-road vehicles. Then they gave us the wonderful Audi 100 in the early 80s that defined aerodynamics for that decade. So good it even had its drag coefficient emblazoned on its rear side glass. Then there was the original Audi TT, the Audi A2, space frame construction, Procon 10 safety systems, not to mention countless rally wins and Le Mans victories. Audi are indeed one of the companies that does indeed progress technology. So here we have the Audi e-Tron, the very latest luxury SUV. It goes up against Jaguar's I-Pace and the Mercedes-Benz EQC 400 and probably the Tesla Model X. So, is it any good? Well, again, that's what we're here at AutoEV to find out. So, let's unplug the Quattro. So yes, the e-Tron is another luxury SUV. The problem is manufacturers don't get the return on investment by putting batteries into small city cars. They are very complex to engineer. You don't get the return on investment, as I say, and also they're quite expensive. Whereas with something like this, a high-cost luxury SUV, it's easy to put the batteries in it, it's easy to engineer, and you do get that return on investment. So, Audi have followed Mercedes' route and making the e-Tron a sort of standalone sub-brand. It's not an electrified version of something that's currently on sale. In terms of styling, it is play it safe Audi, and that's no bad thing. And as you say, it is a standalone model. It sits somewhere in size between the Q5 and the Q7, and like its main rivals, the EQC 400 and Jaguar I-Pace, it is a strict 5-seater. It's also nice to see it in something other than rather kind of dull Audi grey, although I'm not convinced this blue really does work with some of these contrasting black and silver things here. I think it could be quite a spec sensitive car. Hyundai, take note. This is how to style a grille that isn't a grille. I do love the lights too, and this rear light bar is becoming something a bit de rigueur for EVs of late. This car also gets LED front headlights, and you can also have rear-facing cameras instead of mirrors. They're not fitted to this particular test car, and I have to say it is very future tech, and for the last 30 years mirrors have serviced me fine, so it's something I'd have to try to see whether or not I think they work. You get 2 charging ports in the car, one on each front wing, which operate at the touch of a button. This is typical Audi neat design that does stand them out from the competitors. All of that being said, Audi have played it safe with this styling. Now, given they gave us the original TT and the way ahead of its time A2 Super Mini, I'd quite like to have seen them being a little bit more brave with the styling of it. It's like the Mercedes EQC 400, and that's fine for Mercedes-Benz, but for Audi, just a little bit more design would have been nice. Still, they have shown the e-Tron as the new Sportback at the recent LA Motor Show, which does show a good return to form for them on that front. It's a 5-seat SUV, somewhere between the size of the Q5 and the Q7, like I said. So for most people's needs, it's plenty big enough. The boot appears a little small at first though, and it does have quite a slope to that rear window, but again, it's probably going to meet most people's requirements. The seats fold, and there's a little underfloor storage too. A nice touch is the cables can be stored in the front of the car, so there's no need to empty your luggage to get to them if you need to charge en route. Again, this is the sort of attention to detail that appeals with the Audi. Inside, it is familiar Audi, which is a good thing. Now, in comparison with the Mercedes EQC 400 that we drove last week, they both take different approaches to a very similar theme, whereas the double screened landscaped EQC, on the Audi we've got 3 screens here with Audi's virtual cockpit, and you can change what you're looking at depending obviously on what you prefer. It does take a little getting used to, as there is an awful lot of information to take in at first glance, but once you've got it set up exactly how you like it, it is a really excellent display. but the design of the dashboard itself is an absolute delight, and I love this sort of satin finish wood that's in this particular car. The other great thing that I like about it is the screens. They give you the little haptic feedback that I really enjoy on these touch screens, so you do know when you've selected something. And again, at first it might look all a little bit daunting, but as soon as you get used to it, it's genuinely very, very easy to use. The seats themselves, again, comfortable, a little bit firmer, and again, possibly lacking a little bit under thigh support. I thought the Mercedes seats were a little bit better than last week. They're heated, you can have them ventilated as well. This is obviously an option. And this central spine running down the centre of the whole car, you've got plenty of storage. We've got lovely cup holders down here. We've got wireless charging for mobile in here. This rather odd looking, what you think is a transmission lever, isn't. It's like a wrist rest, so you can use the screen here and also to flick the transmission lever backwards and forwards. Audi have done a great job in here, and again the quality of the fit and finish is as you'd expect for Audi. And look folks, a round steering wheel. And again in the rear it's exactly the same. The fit and finish of the materials is as you'd expect, and there is plenty of room. If I sit here, there's lots of knee room. I've got lots of headroom. There's a flat floor here as well. We've got obviously ISOFIX points, as you can see, with our child seat fitted, and this particular car is specified with 4-zone climate control, so the rear passengers can adjust their own fan speed and temperature down here. They've also got 2 USB ports down there, and we've got a nice folding armrest, again with some nice design touches with cup holders and a little oddment tray. Again, it's just a well thought out interior and a really nice place to spend time in. If anyone can explain to me Audi's badging policy with this 55 moniker, I'd be grateful. But nonetheless, here's the powertrain facts that you want to know about. The car comes with a 95 kilowatt hour battery, which is one of the biggest in its class, so you'd think it would give you the best range in its class. Fortunately, it doesn't. According to Audi's figures, it's 237 miles, but in reality, that's probably closer to 200 to 210, which is way less than the Mercedes and the Jaguar I-Pace, let alone the Tesla Model X. The car will take, however, a charge up to 150 kilowatt, if you can find a charger that does that. But from a rapid charger, it should give you about 80% of battery from around about 30 to 40 minutes. Now the e-Tron produces just over 400 brake horsepower, but don't be fooled by that figure because it only produces it when it's in sport mode. It's like a sort of like an overboost facility for like overtaking. In normal running, it's just over 300 horsepower, 302 brake horsepower the car produces. But that's still plenty enough. I mean, the car dispatches 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds, which is plenty for a large 5-seat SUV like this. But to drive, it's not really a car that likes to be thrown around. It is quattro. It has a motor at the front and a motor at the rear, so it is 4-wheel drive, and it does have a huge amount of grip, but it just doesn't really like to be hustled through the bends. It's a big car, and you can feel that as you drive it. That's what sort of makes the Mercedes stand out a little bit different. It's much more of a driver's car. Now that's fine if Audi had sort of focused on ride comfort and sort of like comfort, which they sort of haven't, because again, although it's on air suspension and the Mercedes is on passive springs and dampers, the Mercedes is actually a more comfortable car to drive in. And the steering is typical Audi. It sort of does the job of turning the front wheels, but you can't really tell where the front wheels are pointing from it. Again, you just don't get the same level of feedback in steering as you do from something like the Mercedes or say like even a BMW X5 Hybrid or Porsche Cayenne. If the numbers are small when we're talking about range, they certainly aren't when we're talking about price. The e-Tron starts at £70,000. This particular car in this specification hits well over £80,000 before the government grant of £3,500. Now, that is more expensive than the Mercedes and the Jaguar I-Pace, although it depends on the spec of the Mercedes you choose as to where that fits in. It does undercut the Tesla Model X, however, which is probably its next closest rival. Where the Tesla wins is you get much bigger accommodation and obviously a much bigger range. Where the Audi wins, however, is it is a much better car in terms of fit and finish and design quality. And of course, Audi is a more established brand than Tesla. At this point, you literally pays your money and takes your choice. So the competition for the e-Tron, well, as we've mentioned all the way through it, it comes down to the following. You have the Mercedes EQC 400, the Jaguar I-Pace, and for a little bit more money, the Tesla Model X. Other main rivals which you might consider if you've yet to be convinced of full EV are people like BMW, Porsche and Land Rover Range Rover, who don't as yet offer a full EV vehicle but do offer plug-in hybrids on cars of similar value and size. So here's what we like about the Audi e-Tron. We like the quality, as it's absolutely unrivaled at this price point. The interior design and the usability is first class. And again, all the design details are just pure Audi and really thoughtful and well executed. It also follows a familiar Audi path, and so for those of you who's new to EV, it certainly won't alienate you. We don't like the poor range compared with its direct rivals. The price is high. Styling's a little bit too conservative for us, given that it's an Audi. And it's not as dynamic nor as comfortable as the Mercedes or the Jaguar I-Pace. Last week, I drove the Mercedes EQC 400, and I said then that I would wait until I'd driven the e-Tron to deliver a verdict on which one I thought was best. Well, I've driven the e-Tron now, and I spent a little bit more time in it than I did with the Mercedes. But even so, I have to say that for me, the Mercedes is the better driver's car. It's nicer to drive, it's got better handling, the ride comfort, strangely enough, is actually better, even though it's on passive springs and dampers as opposed to the Audi's air suspension. And just the range is better, which is probably the more deciding factor. So does that make the e-Tron a bad car? Well, absolutely not, no. Look at it like this. It's a bit like an iPhone. It's taken me a little while to figure this out. The iPhone hasn't really changed since the iPhone 6 came along in terms of its design and its usability. And that's kind of what Audi have done. They've taken the familiarity of Audi and just electrified it. If you were to walk past the Mercedes-Benz showroom and into the Audi one, I wouldn't blame you in the slightest. So, whilst the Mercedes is the better driver's car, the Audi does deliver some winning punches, and I think over the longer term ownership proposition, it's probably a fairer fight. Thanks for watching. If you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe. And remember, we make this content for you, so please make any comments that you've got down below. It's important that we know what you like and what you don't like. Over the next few weeks, we've got lots of exciting content coming up, including used car buyer guides and more car reviews. So, stay connected with AutoEV. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe, and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded. Sorry, what's that? You want more than just videos? Okay, did you know that AutoEV is also a website? That's right, autoev.co.uk. Not only is it all the latest news, reviews and musings, including motorsport from the electric vehicle world, but we've got literally hundreds of used electric vehicles for sale from dealers up and down the country.